Hello everyone and welcome back to Karina's Dream World. This is my channel. I'm here with my friend Natasha.
Hello.
So today we're going to be reviewing or kind of like looking at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. So I saw Into the Spider-Verse for the first time yesterday. You've seen it before.
I've seen it before and I rewatched it to refresh my memory.
Mm-hmm. And then after this, we're gonna go watch Across the Spider-Verse in theaters. But we just kind of wanted to do a review of the first one too, since it's my first time watching it. So she's gonna go ahead and ask me a few questions because I've never seen it before. It was a blind reaction.
Yeah, okay, so first question, Karina. What do you think the movie did well?
Okay, so I feel like the movie did very well at capturing a teen because like Miles is younger teenager. Classic Spider-Man story of like he's a genius but doesn't exactly know how to handle it, and I felt like the teenage awkwardness was just so real. Like when the first few scenes where he's at school and he's like, "Dad, stop. Please stop. Please stop." And the pressure that he's put under, like that was a big part of his character arc. His relationship with his dad, his relationship with the world itself. I feel like that was done really, really well. And there were some moments that just felt so grounded and real. And that's what I love to see in movies that are fantasy. Like even with all the like explosions and action, obviously, that we don't experience in this world, when they have real moments that we can relate to. And I feel like this movie did really well at that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think we could definitely tell how much expectations that he felt, and he was very vulnerable about that. So very relatable. Okay, and the second question is, what did you think about the graphics and visuals of the movie?
Okay, so this literally felt like somebody took a comic book and animated it. Like literally just like plastered an animated comic book. I thought the art was really pretty. The coloring was super cool, especially in scenes with like the graffiti. And I thought the animation was very well done. My only complaint, and this is like a me thing, it's not the movie, it's me. I get motion sickness and I have sensory issues. So this movie definitely was not the greatest for me to watch, even on a small screen. Like I was kind of like I have to look away for a second just so I don't pass out. But the movie itself, I feel like was very beautifully animated. So like an unbiased opinion, gorgeous. It's a me problem. It's not it's not that I thought the movie was poorly colored or animated or anything. I just have that problem. But like that's just an advisory, like if you are sensitive to like flashing lights and like motion camera work, because I did get a little bit motion sick watching this movie. But that's for all Spider-Man movies. Like I can't watch them, they just make me dizzy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really liked like the animated style of it. I think I haven't really watched very many movies in that style, so it was really cool. But I can definitely see how it can cause motion sickness for sure.
Yeah, but it's very unique in that sense, and I appreciate that because sometimes it's just like this like 2D, but like yeah, I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was very well done. Okay, and then what do you think about the music that was in the movie?
The music was really good. I mean, I feel like there wasn't a specific track that like stood out to me, but I feel like since I was like in the scenes where I got roped in, the music has to be good because I feel like a good score does so much for a scene when it's animated, especially. And I know the like Sunflower song came from this movie. I thought that was a cute little motif that he had. I thought it was going to be more prominent for some reason because like that song was huge after that movie came out, right? But yeah, I thought the music was good. I don't feel like anything in particular like popped out to me, but I feel like that's okay because like in the scenes where I was roped in, there was a good score because that's what helps draw me in.
For sure. And who are your favorite characters in the movie?
Okay, I really liked Gwen. Obviously, I might be a little biased, but I like her a lot. Miles, and I really like the dad. I mean, I don't necessarily think like, oh, he's such an awesome character, but I thought he was a very real and grounded character, and I really like seeing like how he changed. He's not perfect, he has his flaws, he makes mistakes, but he's trying his best, and in the end he kind of comes around to realize like, I have to be there for my son.
Mm-hmm.
When he had that pep talk with Miles, I mean, he thought Miles wasn't even like listening to him, but like that pep talk moment was so gorgeously done. I thought that really encapsulated both of their characters. So yeah, I would say like Gwen, Miles, the dad. I also like Peter Porker. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
What about you? What are your favorite characters?
Oh, I really liked Miles as well. I think that you said like the character development that we saw in him was just so real. Yeah, and I really liked how vulnerable he was as a character. But in general, like all the characters, they were so funny too. Peter Porker, of course, is funny too. Even the black and white one, I don't know what his name was, but when he was like trying to solve the Rubik's Cube because he couldn't see the colors, I thought that was so funny.
He was funny. I think shout out to his uncle.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very interesting. Despite I thought that character was going to have much more screen time for some reason. Like from what I had seen from the trailers and other people like talking about the movie, I thought that character was going to be on screen way more often. But very interesting character and villain despite lack of screen time.
For sure. Kind of speaking about the character development of the characters we saw, what do you think about the character's development of Miles and even his father? How do you think that the movie did on that?
Yeah, so like I said, I think the father's development was very well done because he just kind of had that moment where he's like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe like even though I had good intentions, I need to make a step to say like, hey, I kind of messed up and acknowledge that. I think that's a very key moment of character development. I also liked Miles's development because I feel like as a character, he stays the same. Like he's still the same person by the end of the movie, but he learns like some things I just have to wait for them to figure out. Like the whole leap of faith thing that they talk about, that was really interesting. I also liked Peter B. Parker's relationship. Like the older Spider-Man. Yeah, like I liked his development too because he kind of comes to realization like, wait a second, I actually can pick my life up. Like I have the tools to do that. When I go back, I don't need to like sacrifice to prove myself. Like that's kind of, because he's all like, nope, it has to be me. And Miles is like, no, bro, like you have a life to live back in your dimension. That was really interesting. I loved watching. I think those three characters had the best development.
For sure. I think it was so cool to see how there were so many different characters that had character development in the movie. And like you said, like the leap of faith thing is, we saw how much pressure that Miles was feeling so many times, and he kept trying to push himself to go for it, that he can be that one to solve or save the world, but in the end it really came down to him believing in himself as well. And even for Peter B. Parker, it was really great to see his development as well, just because we kind of saw the other side as well. Like he was, had a different life experience than Miles, and he was in, I feel like I obviously not a middle-aged person, but I felt like it seemed real, like the struggles that he was going through and like, what is he doing with his life, and that he was able to find that again. So I think it was just great to see too.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about the villains in the movie?
So, I am not super educated on like Spider-Man background, so I do feel like, they were good villains, but it's just like I didn't feel like the villains were what stood out to me in this movie. Like, I did think that Kingpin, right? I thought his backstory was interesting. I think it was a little bit too briefly cut, but I feel like in the moment that also worked in the movie because that's just him like having flashbacks and being like, ugh, that's what happened. I thought that was an effective way to do it. I just wish we kind of got more character out of him from them being big and bad, because I feel like even with said trauma that he had, that was still most of his character was just like, I feel like there could have been slightly more nuance. But I do like that they weren't afraid to make the villains like pretty threatening, because most of the, like, there are moments where they are losing. Like that one character, she loses her mech. Like usually they don't have like that happen, especially in like animated superhero movies. But they didn't really stick out to me that much. Maybe I'm just uneducated on like their background and stuff. So if y'all like feel free to educate me on that. I'm definitely not hating. I just feel like I need to do a little bit more research on these characters and who they are in the comics, because I just don't know. And because of that, I thought like them being introduced, I was like, who is that? Like, they barely say their name. Like, am I supposed to know who that is? Because, like, I knew who Green Goblin was. Like, when Green Goblin comes in at one point, I know what that is. But I was just kind of like, am I supposed to know who this character is? I probably was, but I didn't. So I was just uneducated on that matter. So I'd like to do a little bit more research on that. Because maybe then I'll be like, oh, that's what they were trying to do there.
What I think was interesting about the movie is that there wasn't really one, I mean, there was kind of just one villain who was Kingpin, but, you know, there was Octavia, and also Miles's uncle, too, was, like, technically a villain. So I think it was really interesting that we got some background on both the uncle and Kingpin, and we were kind of just, like, able to understand why they were villains. And I think that like backstory part or just context is sometimes missing from other movies, but I feel like this movie still did that pretty well, where we kind of understood why they were, you know, doing what they were doing. For some sense, like there was some like history like there that it wasn't like out of the blue or like you know.
I think that was done best with Kingpin and the uncle, because we actually get like backstory on them. Like Octavia is just kind of like, I'm a mad scientist, ha 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 ha. But then like Kingpin has those flashback moments, and then Miles's uncle, we get the he was a rebel, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and he split off from the rest of the family except for Miles. I definitely think the uncle was my favorite villain though. Like, definitely.
And I don't know if it was just because the movie was animated that was easier to follow the storyline, because I feel like if it was a live action movie, I would be confused about what is the storyline, like what is the backstory versus present. But the movie made it very clear on, you know, what was backstory and what wasn't, what was the present. So I really appreciated that it was like pretty easy to follow the plot.
Yeah, I don't think this movie would have worked live action.
Yeah.
Like, not gonna lie. I was like, because my mom was even asking me about this when I was talking about it. She was like, would you have preferred it live action? And then I was like, no. I don't think so. Because then we wouldn't have gotten all those nuances with like the mechs and with Peter Porker. Like, I just feel like some things are way better animated. That's how I feel about a lot of Disney movies too. But yeah, I think the animation style worked perfectly for this movie.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Okay, and then what do you think of the movie's plot twist? What was it, and what do you think about it?
Yeah, so the uncle being one of the villains, I actually kind of pre-knew about this plot twist because, you know, there was discussion around this movie before I watched it and stuff, so I knew, like, oh, the uncle's a bad guy, and he dies, but I didn't think it was going to surprise me because I went into this movie knowing, like, yeah, I know he's one of the villains, but then I was like, holy crap. Like, when I didn't realize he was going to die so quickly after his villainy was revealed. That was I feel like that was the moment, because, like, I was vibing with this movie. Like, I was like, yeah, this is a good movie. Like, it's relatable. Yeah, whatever. But then, like, at that plot twist moment, I was like, oh, they're going there. They're going really real. Like, when you find out somebody you care about is working against you, but also, like, they find that out, too, and they're like, oh, no. And then, like, he was taken out so fast. Like, that surprised me. Like, I knew that he was gonna die, but I didn't realize that, like, when he is revealed as one of the villains, that he, like, immediately dies. Like, Kingpin is just like, oh, okay, well, you're not gonna kill him, boom. And it's like, whoa. Like, that was so much to process in such a short amount of time. I thought it was effective in the sense that they did that. Because they could have dragged that on, but I feel like it worked in the moment, because Miles has this kind of like emotional crisis moment with the villain. And that was kind of interesting to see. So yeah, like, so even though I knew about the plot twist, I feel like I didn't realize it was going to be an actual gut punch.
And then especially like right after when Miles's father came and saw that his uncle had died too, and then he was like, oh, we have to get Spider-Man now too. I was like, oh no, like how's this plot gonna turn? Is like the dad gonna turn against Miles? But it didn't end up like that, so I thought that was interesting though, that it definitely added some more emotional tension to, you know, his family relations as well. Yeah. And then overall, what would you rate the movie and why?
Yeah, so I don't like rating movies on a scale from 1 to 10 just because it's like weird to me. Because I feel like maybe like one half, I said this about in my Ninjago review, like I said the first half it's like a C, the second half it's like an A+. So I don't know exactly how to rate it properly. With this movie, I've got to say, like, again, like I said, I was vibing to it. Like, I was like, yeah, this movie's good. But then, like, I really felt like I got roped in at that plot twist moment. Because that's when things became so real and grounded. I think I'd give it, like, an 8. You think that's fair? Because, like, okay, I just want to say my ratings are hard because, like, I am a filmmaker. So, like, when somebody enjoys a movie, they might just say 10 out of 10 recommend. But I'm like, yeah, I do recommend this movie. It's an 8. It's a very good movie. Like, I just don't want people to think that I'm saying it's bad. An 8 on my scale is very good. Like, very good. I would definitely rewatch this movie.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of those movies that is rewatchable, you know? It's like every single time I just like notice new details. Like the second time I was like, yeah, I just like appreciate the visuals so much more too, and like the storyline where I'm like processing more of it. So I would definitely rate this high. I would probably give it like a 9 or something, but I'm pretty like easygoing on ratings. So yeah, but it was a really good movie, and I'm really excited to watch the second movie today.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm just worried I'm going to get motion sick. But other than that, I'm very excited to see this next movie. I hope there's more world building. I think it's been getting good reviews.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've seen in the trailers that it's more related to, you know, Gwen and Miles' storyline.
Okay.
Yeah, across their different, I guess, like,
dimensions.
Yeah, so I think that'll be interesting to see how that proceeds.
Yeah. And also, this gave me a lot of, like, from other, like, movies that I've seen, it gave me No Way Home vibes, but, like, a different universe version of it. So I thought that was really, really cool. Because in No Way Home, I dead thought that Miles was going to show up. Like, I was like, I thought for sure he was going to show up. And I'm kind of glad he didn't, because he has his own, like, storyline in that. That was just something I wanted to add in.
Yeah. And I'm curious about if we see any new characters or, you know, return of any characters, or even like at the end of the first movie, I feel like we saw like a little snippet more of his roommate. I don't know if that's going to be a bigger thing in the second movie at all, but
that was funny. I actually liked that a lot. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. I actually want to say, like, I haven't seen the trailers. I'm going in completely blind. And I think that's good, because otherwise I'd be like, oh, I'm expecting this or whatever. Like, I don't like watching trailers because I like to be completely surprised.
Yeah, I don't think I watched the full trailer either. Okay. It's probably just like a clip on like TikTok or something.
Well, as you can see, Natasha's wearing a New York shirt and spider earrings, so she's very, like, celebratory about this. I should have dressed up more, but I'm scared of spiders, so I thought that I was going to be scared, because I am scared of spiders, but there was only like one kind of icky spider scene in the first movie.
Yeah.
I've heard there are more in this next movie, so I'm a little nervous about that.
I have questions about the spider scene too. I'm like, where do these spiders come from?
Like,
there's no background on that either. Like,
yeah, I'm interested. Maybe we'll find out. Well, now we're going to go prepare to see Across the Spider-Verse, and we'll do, like, this will be one video. So we'll have, like, this first review and then the second half, like, after we've watched the movie. See y'all then.
5 hours later.
And we're back. As you can see, we changed the lighting because it's actually now starting to get dark. That movie was really long. But very content filled. So we're just gonna dive right in. And also, by the way, spoilers. So we warned you. Do not complain in the comments about spoilers. Thank you.
Yeah, that movie was pretty hectic and long, like you said. So let's dive right into it. So first, does anything stand out about this movie compared to the first one?
I'm glad you asked that. Music. The music was so much more memorable. Like, other than, like, the classic Sunflowers song, this movie's score was so engaging. I was, like, in focus right off the bat. Like, I was engaged throughout the entire movie. Because, like I said in the first one, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm vibing, like, whatever. And it caught me at the twist. This one had me engaged the entire time. So, yeah, I guess that's the biggest difference.
Okay, nice. I think for the music for me, I kind of like tuned it out and I'm very focusing on the action that was happening. And there's so much of this. I like don't really remember the music, but the action was very memorable. So maybe it helped with that part for sure of the movie.
Yeah, see, for me, I hear things as they happen. Like, it's a weird thing that I do. Maybe it's like an editing thing, but I've always like heard music in sync with stuff when they happen. So maybe that's why, like, because there was so much action, the music kind of just like honed me in even more.
Yeah, I think it definitely enhanced the action at least. Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then what do you think this movie did well?
Oh, it did a lot of things really well. I like that it added so many layers to it. Like, I don't really know how to describe it. Like, there was a lot of complexity, and yet things began to like click more and more within said universe. Like, we learn why things are a little bit off for Miles compared to the rest of the Spider-Man, and there are a lot of them, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. I think that scene where they were explaining how the Spider-Verses work was just very interesting to see how, you know, they're all connected and have, you know, very similar storylines, and how that's very, well, supposedly very important to the Spider-Verse. How these, what do they call it? The canon events?
Canon events,
are supposedly very important. Yeah, so that was definitely very interesting, I think, to get some context on that.
Right.
Yeah. And then, did you see any differences in the graphics and visuals in this movie compared to the first movie?
Yes, there are more verses now. So they had many different graphics to work with. Like, there was a Lego one, there was like so many more art styles in this one. And I do feel like the animation for this one was more pristine. Like, did you notice that? Like, they seemed, it might just be because Miles is older in this movie, so he had like sharper features and stuff like that. Because he's gone from like young scrawny teenager to like more built up teenager. But yeah, I don't know, I just felt like the art style itself was more pristine while still keeping the same animation. And also, apologies if I do seem disoriented, I am, so yeah.
That movie was definitely very disorienting, and there was just so much going on, and like you said, so many different art styles, but it was really cool. I think it was really amazing how all the art styles were so distinct. Like, you can definitely tell, you know, that they were different. And there were so many of them too. So I was really impressed by that. But at times it definitely like felt like there's a lot going on, you know, hard for my eyes to keep track of.
Yeah.
And thankfully we had like a big screen. So like, you know, our eyes aren't like too close or anything like that. Like, otherwise, I don't know, if it was like on my screen on my iPad, I would not be able to keep track of everything. So there's a lot going on at some points for sure.
I'm really glad we saw it in theaters, because I feel like on the small screen it would have been a completely different experience.
And it definitely felt like we're more in it too. Like, there's so much action in there that because we were able to see it on such a big screen, it just like felt so much more, I don't know, like lively, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, so the next question do you have any thoughts on any of the new characters? Who were they? Who are the new characters? And what did you think of them?
Okay, so I really like the Daisy guy. Like, I don't know if he's Indian, but like,
there's like an Indian multiverse.
Yeah, and he was really funny. I liked him. I also liked the Hobie, is that his name?
Yeah,
the punk one.
The punk,
I liked him.
Anarchist.
And also, I think he was voiced by Daniel Kaluuya.
Oh,
maybe, because he's like British, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was Daniel Kaluuya. I have to relook at the credits, but there were a lot of cool voice actors in this movie. I liked them, and I liked how at the end Gwen kind of took the team from the first movie and the team from the second movie and kind of like brought them together to go find Miles, like, because we ended on a pretty heavy cliffhanger.
Yeah,
that
the cliffhanger was crazy.
Yeah,
we'll get into that. That's one of my later questions, but again, like you said, I think it was really cool that they tied in the first movie characters into this movie. They didn't do it, they kind of did it like later on. Obviously the first two characters that we saw from the first movie and then in the second movie was Gwen and Peter B. Parker. And we didn't see, you know, the other like Peter Parker or any of those until like the very end of the movie.
very end.
But I think it just like really connected it well. At least like there's definitely gonna be. It says to be continued, so that was a big cliffhanger right there. So I think that was really nice that they connected it right there at the end. And again, I think seeing Peter B. Parker again was really cool.
That was funny. His baby is hilarious.
Yeah, because now he has a baby.
He has a baby. I also like that the mom was a more prominent character because I feel like the first movie is like his connection with his dad and stuff. This one was kind of more about his connection with his mom, which I thought was really interesting because I was like, yeah, the dad was still a big part of it, but the mom was more so equal there, and I thought that was great because like both of his parents are clearly extremely important to him. We also forgot to mention last time, it didn't click for me that Miles was Afro-Latino until I watched the first movie and heard him speak Spanish. Like, I did not realize that. For some reason, like, his last name's Morales. I feel like it should have clicked, but it didn't until I heard him speaking Spanish, and I was like, oh, he's Afro-Latino. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, the parent development, that parent relationship in this movie is really interesting as well, because we kind of see them, like his mom trying to understand him more, but then there's also some growing distance between, like, Miles and his parents, which is really interesting as well.
Makes sense. He's getting older, and you know, like he's now in that awkward stage of teenager where it's like, I'm not a kid anymore, but I'm also not an adult. And I actually talked about this in my Ninjago review, but like that's a really weird developmental spot for kids. Like, it's just like adolescents are in this weird middle ground, and it's harder for them to process things because they're like not quite adult, not quite kid. So
they definitely played into that, you know, rebel teenage stereotype or character for sure in Miles in this movie.
He gets grounded.
Yeah, well, multiple times. Attempts to get grounded, at least. So I think that was really interesting to see as well. So we'll see what happens going forward with him and his parents. But yeah. Okay, so the next question is, who are the villains, any new villains, and what are your thoughts on them?
So we've got Spot. Again, wasn't super invested with him. Like, he had cool stuff to him, and I did feel like it was interesting how it's like a guy that was working in the lab where the previous villains were. So that was kind of cool, and he has a really powerful like access to the multiverse, which is super, super cool. But again, he wasn't really what I was thinking about throughout that movie. Like, I don't know, like I don't think he's a bad villain or anything, but that's just what I wasn't focused on him. Yeah. Really. And not a villain, but more so antagonist.
Okay, y'all, while editing, I realized that I am big dumb and I actually butchered Miguel's name in Across the Spider-Verse and for some reason thought his name was Diego. So yeah, big dumb moment on my part. Really sorry about that. But just so y'all don't come at me, I'm gonna have his name edited into this. So sorry about that. Just wanted to clear up the confusion.
Miguel.
Because he's interesting. Because he's one that's been through like a lot of trauma, like his own daughter, who he claimed as his own daughter. It wasn't really his daughter, but like he claimed her as his daughter. Like, that's giving Wanda from Multiverse of Madness. I know you haven't seen it, but like, if you know, you know. But that, like, and then now he's kind of on this like mission plan, like everything needs to be exactly in line or else the world's gonna crumble, and it's just like, yeah, but maybe circumstances are different for Miles than they are for the rest of y'all, because he, again, isn't supposed to be there because of the malfunction they had with the radioactive spider.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, I think going back to what you said about Spot, I think that we do get some, you know, some background and backstory of this character, and it is interesting that they tied it in to the first movie. Apparently he was just some, you know, lab worker in the first movie. So it was really interesting to like have that connection there, but I definitely didn't see it like at all, and I think that you know, it kind of I guess like it made sense, his backstory. He wants to get back at Miles, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit more of like a reasoning. I don't know. Like it just felt like they're definitely trying to pull for a villain spot for some reason. But I think he was like a funny character. You know, all his like side commentary at least. Like he didn't really seem like this like super evil character that who, you know, he was very much like making jokes and like he was also exploring the multiverse in his own way. He's very excited about that, so it was just interesting to see for sure. And then for
Miguel.
I didn't even catch his name in the movie, so
I think it is.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but
I didn't catch his name.
I think it is.
Miguel.
Yeah, but I think he definitely like walked the line that kind of blurred between like friend or foe, like antagonist, you know? Because at some point, some of the characters were questioning whether or not they were the good guys. You know, Gwen was like, I thought we were supposed to be the good guys, and then he was like, we are, but everyone was starting, you can kind of see their like wheels were turning in their heads, being like, are we? So I think it was really interesting to see that, and they're also like questioning that, like, what are they doing, you know, like, are they doing something that is like good? And I think that also was like, just like really interesting as well to see, just because I feel like we'll get maybe more character development in some of the other side characters in the next movie because we start seeing their brains churning in this one.
Yeah, especially with Gwen and Peter B.
Yeah.
I think they were the two big, like...
Yeah, even the lady on the bike.
Yeah, I forgot her name.
I forgot her name
too. But like the cool African-American...
Yeah, so she definitely seemed like her wheels were turning too. Like, are we doing the right thing? Yeah, so definitely very interesting right there.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of said antagonist rather than villain, because you can have like technically a good guy be an antagonist to the main character and a bad guy end up being an ally. So like it just depends on like how you're looking at it, but we're gonna say antagonist.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it for sure. And then what was the plot twist in this movie? What would you say? Was there like a peak of the movie?
I think it's kind of the whole like that spider should not have been there. Like I think that was kind of what it was. Like the spider that bit Miles was not supposed to bite him. It wasn't even supposed to be in that dimension or that universe or whatever. It was supposed to be in Earth 42, which has no Spider-Man. And is in complete, utter chaos. And I think there was kind of a plot twist again at the end where we see Miles in that Earth 42 is the Prowler.
That was huge for sure. Yeah, I think just like learning about all of that and like how like all these little things are piecing up and how Miles wasn't even, you know, kind of meant to be a Spider-Man. I thought that was just like so interesting, and then how they were saying that had basically made a butterfly effect for so many other universe or, you know, multiverses. So yeah, that was very interesting to see.
There's also that moment where he realizes he's not in the right universe, and the mom, like, I kind of could see that something was wrong. Like when he arrived there, I was like, I don't think that's where he's supposed to be, because the atmosphere is just so different. And then the mom comes in and we don't see the dad, but well, I mean we do, but not in that universe, because he's dead in
that scene totally got me, at least, because I had thought that he had traveled back to his own, you know, like Spider-Verse, I guess if it's called, and I thought that, you know, he was like talking to his mom and that Gwen was outside his room listening, because that's how they made it look. But it turns out Gwen was just like, oh, he's not in the room. She was just like waiting outside. And when she had gone in, Miles wasn't there, and then that's when she realized that Miles was in the wrong Spider-Verse. And that's also when Miles realized he was in the wrong Spider-Verse, was when he saw his uncle who had supposedly died. And then basically we see 2 Miles and where Miles was the Prowler. So I think that was the biggest. I was like, oh my god, did not expect that at all.
Yeah, like I thought Gwen was there too. That tricked me for sure, but I didn't. I there was just something off about the atmosphere there. Like I was like, I don't think that's Miles's verse. Like I thought for a second he actually ended up in Gwen's verse or something like that. But I could tell something was off. But it was when his mom was like, "Who's Spider-Man?" I was like, is his mom like clueless or and then I was like, oh he's in the wrong universe.
Yeah, it took me a while to put that together because I was
Yeah.
like, this should just not know who Spider-Man is, and then I realized that everyone knows who Spider-Man is, even if they don't know like who the actual person is.
Except for that universe.
Yeah, so I guess she just really did not like. Yeah, Spider-Man didn't exist in that universe.
He doesn't exist.
Yeah, but it was really interesting though. Another thing was that how Gwen's like verse had changed too, where her canon events, right? Wasn't it like her dad was supposed to become the captain of the police, and he didn't. Yeah, and he didn't become the captain of the police. So it just really shows that like there's definitely like a butterfly effect, and in that sense, like everyone in that movie was like an anomaly, as they called it, because she had changed her own canon event too, where her dad didn't die, even though she was expecting him to. So when she returned, like she was just so confused, right? So I think that kind of, I don't know, like what Diego said or whatever his name is, like who knows if it's true? Like who knows if these anomalies are bad, you know? Because you know, like all these different characters are seeing their own anomalies right now.
Because here's the thing, he deliberately messed with his universe. Like he messed it up, and then Miles accidentally messed it up. But Gwen, she didn't really mess it up. That was her dad's own decision.
Yeah, I mean, well, because she left her Spider-Verse, that her dad had decided to quit.
Yeah.
But then that kind of just means that it was like
Miguel.
butterfly effect, where he came in and intervened into Gwen's, you know, Spider-Verse, and then all that trickled down.
Yeah,
right. So whose fault is it really? That's the question, you know? Like who's starting all these trickle downs, and will it actually break this Spider-Verse or whatever?
Will it break everything?
Yeah, will it break everything? I think that's the question we're waiting to see. So and then what was the cliffhanger? Let's go into that more. That was kind of crazy.
So like he's in the wrong verse basically, and then his uncle comes in, he's like, oh, and his dad is dead, and he's like, oh, so my dad is dead and my uncle's here, and then he gets knocked out and he's like tied to this punching bag, and his uncle's like making something, and he's telling him like, no, you don't have to be the bad guy. But then the Prowler comes in, and it's Miles, but it's Miles from Earth 42, obviously. So there are two Mileses, and he like same face but completely different vibe. Like he has the braids, he has the suit, and it seems like that Miles and that Uncle Aaron are working together.
Yeah, so we're wondering right now at this point if the Miles from, you know, the original Spider-Verse is going to make it out of that alive with, I guess, himself trying to kill him or something, you know? We saw at the very end that he was just about to maybe try to break free before the Miles with the braids tries to kill him, but who knows? We'll see. And then we saw that the gang gets back together from the first movie and the second movie. So it literally just ends off of there, and we're like, we don't know what's going to happen now.
Yeah, because I was sitting there thinking, like, how long is this going to go on? Like, are they going to wrap it up, or are they going to leave us on a cliffhanger? And they really left us on a cliffhanger there. And I was like, dang, that was ballsy. Like,
I didn't expect a cliffhanger at all. I like I said, I literally thought that Miles was in his right universe, you know, confessing to his mom that he was Spider-Man, and then this whole thing, that was like the big plot twist for me. I was like, oh, I thought he was gonna confess and like save his father and all of that, but no, it turns out he's at the wrong Spider-Verse. So that was a huge plot twist for me, at least.
Crazy.
That was definitely crazy. Okay, so final thoughts on the movie. What would you rate it and why?
Like I said at the beginning, like I liked the first movie, but it really only caught me like halfway through, if not 3/4 of the way through. Still a good movie, that's why I gave it an 8. But this one, I'd give it like low-key like a 9.5, because I felt like I was engaged. Even like after the title sequence, I was getting disoriented, so I kind of closed my eyes. But then as soon as the action started, I was like sucked in immediately. And it kept me sucked in the entire time. And that, to me, if I'm engaged the entire time, that's pretty much all I ask for in a movie. And I don't get that with superhero movies that often, if I'm being completely honest, because I like I said, I like dramedies, real grounded movies, even if they have a fantasy aspect mixed into it. I like movies with real themes, but this one like had those real themes and had me sucked in the entire time with the graphics, the score, the action, the plot. So I gotta give it like a pretty solid 9.5.
Okay, nice. I think I might have to hold off on giving a rating until I see the second follow up, because I'm like, I can be left on a cliffhanger like that, you know. But I think it was a really good movie. I think it also just very captivating the whole movie through. A lot of action in this one, a lot of things to like take in and process. I think my brain was definitely thinking a lot more with like all the different Spider-Verses and what was going on in this one, because they definitely tried to tap more into like, you know, quantum theories or something like that, you know, which my brain has like more trouble tapping into. But yeah, it was definitely very good, and I'm excited for the next movie to come out eventually, so you can find out what happens. But very captivating plot for sure.
Yeah. Would you say that you liked it more than the first one?
I'm not sure. I think that like the first one, I feel like I saw more character developments from Miles.
Agreed.
So I really like that. I think in this movie, he was definitely playing like the rebel teenager, which I think is like a good, like, I guess, trope. It's not my favorite trope all the time. And I think that we still haven't seen him develop as like a, you know, develop his relationship, or even just, yeah, I feel like we haven't seen as much of that in this movie. But obviously he developed so much in the first movie, so maybe that's where we are right now. Yeah, but it was good. I think there was also just so many like secrets that we found out too, that like, you know, Gwen was keeping secrets, Peter B. Parker was keeping secrets.
Yeah.
And you know, as a movie plot, like, I think it's good. For me as like a human being, I was definitely like thrown off by it. Like, wow, these people aren't like, you know, the best of friends sometimes. But I'm like, no one's perfect. That's like the movie, like how, you know, it was a difficult situation for all of them to be in.
Right.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely just a lot more like things that like were thrown in at the movie that were like good for the movie. But I think for my brain, maybe not so much sometimes, you know?
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
I would argue though that he did have quite a bit of development, because he actually like kind of went through that crazy chase scene and through that whole thing. He was like, hey, I just beat all of them. Like, low-key, I just did. And there were hundreds of them coming at him. And then he realizes, wait a second, I can make my own story. I can make my own choices. And he grew the courage to tell his mom, or who he thought was his mom, Mom, I'm Spider-Man. And he was going to do the same thing with his dad. Yeah. So I do think there was development there. Maybe it was just a little bit more subtle, because we didn't see it outright, and it was like during that crazy chase scene, so there was already so much to process. But
yeah, no, that is very true actually. Yeah, no, I do like that he like gained the courage to tell his mom that he was Spider-Man, even though it was the wrong mom. But he did do it. I was very impressed. I like that scene a lot. I think that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did appreciate that for sure. I think that was just like the one. I guess there were multiple moments, but yeah, that was one for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, but I loved it. Personally, I did.
Yeah, I think it was a very engaging movie. Would recommend to see it in theaters.
As long as you've seen the first one.
yeah, you definitely. This is like a movie that you would need to see the first one.
You have to see the first one, because otherwise you are going to be confused. But yeah, we're going to wrap it up right here. So we loved watching these two movies. Definitely recommend. And thank you for watching our review. If you disagree with us, that's cool. Leave it in the comments. We just ask that you be respectful when stating your opinions. And let us know if you have any other movies you want me to review, and maybe Natasha can join us too. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Thanks.